Раз. Уважаемые коллеги, прошу занять свои места согласно записям за круглым столом. Мы начинаем. Добрый день, уважаемые дамы и господа. Добро пожаловать в Минск на Евразийский экономический форум. Меня зовут Андрей Шико, я директор Ассоциации робототехника и искусственный интеллект. И сегодня буду модератором этого круглого стола. Тема нашего мероприятия – применение роботизированных систем как фактор роста конкурентоспособности промышленных предприятий. В рамках круглого стола будут затронуты вопросы о внедрении промышленных роботов для автоматизации технологических и бизнес-процессов производств с целью перехода к реализации концепций безлюдных технологий. Поговорим о разработке межгоспрограммы ЕАЭС «Промышленная робототехника». Сегодня предлагается обсудить внедрение робототехнических систем и автоматизации производства в отраслях промышленности, внедрение робототехники на разных этапах, от разработки и производства до инсталляции, эксплуатации и обеспечения комплектующими изделиями и открытого программного обеспечения. Для участия в сегодняшнем мероприятии организаторы пригласили руководителей и ведущих специалистов отечественных предприятий, которые отвечают за развитие промышленности в Евразийской экономической комиссии в Министерстве промышленности Республики Беларусь, представители торгово-промышленных палат и торговых домов стран ЕАЭС и некоторых стран-наблюдателей. В круглом столе принимают участие представители организаций разработчиков роботов и роботизированных комплексов, вендоров и интеграторов робототехнических систем, представители Академии наук Беларуси и технических университетов страны, представители мероприятия принимают участие представители профильных ассоциаций
companies of the Eurasian Economic Union. I'd like to thank the leaders and managers of the companies of the real economic sector. The agenda provides for two blocks. The first block is dedicated to the speakers who will be talking about the robotics and the introduction of robotic systems, the practice of the development and the implementation of robotics systems. The second block is experts' discussion that will hear them sharing with us experience and practices of the manufacture, provision of components of robotic system. First of all, I'd like to introduce the speakers. Barsigan Goa Ashotovna, member of the Eurasian Economic
Алимжанов
Фарух,
эксперт по промышленной модернизации Организации
Expert
Объединенных Наций
for
по промышленному развитию ЮНИДО.
Industrial Policies of UNIDO, Kurachkin Dmitry Nikolaevich, Vice President of the Commerce and Industrial Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Turikhanov Vladimir Abdullaevich, President of the Kazakhstan.
Гурин Виктор Леонидович, заместитель генерального директора совместного ООО «Белвест».
Gurin Victor, Vice Director General of Belvest Joint Limited Company,
председатель правления консорциума робототехника и системы интеллектуального управления.
Budorov Evgeny, Executive Director of Corporation NP Androidная техника, Robotics and Intelligence Control Systems.
Кратко о регламенте.
Now, briefly about the timing, 5 minutes for remarks and 1 question from the moderator or from the audience. I'd ask the speakers to fit into the regard. Now we also have here experts whose expert opinions will be useful for all of us. The experts may introduce you before the beginning of the second block. I think that our discussion will be fruitful and will prepare the soil the ground for robotics, its development and introduction and implementation. We begin our discussion, we begin our work. The opening remarks, welcoming remarks are given to the member of the board, Minister for Industry and Agricultural Complex of the Eurasian Economic Commission, Goar Barsidyan. First of all, I would like to thank our Belarusian colleagues for traditionally very cordial reception and for this organization work. The key driver of the progress is the application of robotic systems. The central vector is intelligent automated solutions that change the image of the production as a whole. It's a fundamental element of development. Under the conditions of global competition, companies have to seek new ways, and robots become good helpers at production sites, and it's dictated by the need to reduce the work time, and high technologies, artificial intelligence come as a replacement and become a basis for the competitiveness of our union. The world market in robotics will be overcoming the mark of 100 billion worth, and it will be growing by no less than 1%. This data indicate that robotics has become a reality, and they can radically, fundamentally change the structure of the labor market. And last year at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, we discussed the issues of robotics in the countries of the Eurasian Economic Union. Now the situation is that per 10,000 workers, we have 9 industrial robots, in Kazakhstan 7, in Belarus about 3, and in Armenia and Kyrgyzstan it's fewer than 2. And in developed countries, this is by dozens of units higher in developed countries. Now we need to switch to a systems approach in robotics that will help us achieve the modern level of robotization. We've been seeing the development of national programs in service robotics. Our businesses place emphasis on the development and use of robotics. Especially importance is exchange of experience and the best practices, relying on the potential in our union. And to develop these technologies, we need tense, close cooperation between science, business, and governments. And we need initiatives exactly in that. And the platforms created in this area is an important tool in research and development in our union. The Eurasian Economic Commission has been conducting work to set up a platform, robotics and industrial robotics. This initiative is aimed at the introduction of industrial robots and industrial systems aimed at the production and manufacture in our respective countries. Our discussion today is very important because the suggestions that you offer will be used for development of respective appropriate decisions. And I thank you for your participation and it comes from Belarusian presidency of in the Union now, and I invite you to an open discussion and making brave suggestions, and based on this discussion that I hope will be working out in the long run, new decisions will be taken. I thank you for your attention, and I wish us all very fruitful for the wishes and suggestions that you've offered, and for your attentive attitude to the subject of our roundtable, because robotization of our companies is an important agenda, and I'm hopeful that your attention, your emphasis will help us advance this subject. And I'd like to wish Gohara Ashotovna words of, and your colleagues words of gratitude for your efforts to organize this roundtable. And with brief remarks will be given regarding the policies to be conducted in the coming 5 years. I invite Kuznetsov Andrei Evgenievich, Deputy Minister for Industry, dear colleagues, participants of the forum. I'd like to raise the issue on the significance of robotics in the economy of our country and its role in the future. We've seen the very rapid progress in the robotics in the past few years, and it's a driver of our economic growth. The level of robotization in Belarus is 3 robots per 10,000 people. In Russia, it's 7, compared to the world levels, where it's 150 robots per 10,000, and in the leading countries, it's 1,000 per 10,000. So that means that we're at the initial levels compared to the world leaders. At present, robotics is used, and the holdings Belavtomas, Автокомпоненты, MTZ Holding, Mogilев Liftmash, Gomselmash, and other companies. Significant part of significant number of robots is in Atlanta, is operated by Atlanta. The share of robotized equipment, robotics equipment, is only 1.3% of the equipment, or that means that 1,700 units per 3,000. So the 0.25% is the share of robots in this equipment. The most automated companies are in 900 in processing industries, and our plans for Ministry of Industry is to acquire 600 units of robots or robotics equipment. We've been making all continuous efforts to advance the share of robotics in our industries. In metal working, in welding, 14, in assembly, 14%, in other companies 13%. And we also plan introduction of robotics in investment projects in Belaz, in tractor manufacturing, in the Minsk tractor factory. We also talk about robotics in casting shops with monitoring that. I'm talking about Stolpci motor plant. also in other companies like holding auto components, автокомпоненты. Preliminary data say that in the midterm, by the year 2030, we will be seeing about 2 billion Belarusian rubles to be spent on robotics introduction. Basically, machine building is the main user of robotics. The second ranking is civil engineering, food industry, the Republic of Belarus. The strategy provides for the use of robots, 110 units per 10,000. And digital transformation is a key driver for this. We think that about $2 billion will have to be spent within the next 15 years. There are, however, some challenges. The high price of robotics, high expenditures, high expenses for introduction for smaller companies. It's too expensive. Our countries also are short of engineers, operators, specialists that can operate robots and robotic equipment. Of course, it will be difficult to introduce them because there are fears among the staff and personnel that they will be made redundant. We will need to raise awareness and to show people that it's to their benefit to introduce new robots and robotics. We'll need, however, to revamp, to update equipment and the spaces the robotics can be used. We'll need to move away from imports and to rely more on our local manufacturing. Much importance is attached to encouragement, all sorts of incentives of introduction of robotics. In Belarus, there are efforts to integrate robotics issues in state programs of introduction of new ways of production and manufacturing in the universities and the academic community are involved in introducing robotics. One of the more important aspects discussed now is how it influences the labor market. It needs to be shown that robots can replace low qualified or low skilled labor, but it will also be an incentive to train and to educate engineers, supervising operators to monitor robotized lines. Then specialists in big data analysis, cyber security specialists to prevent break into the robotized lines. Will need higher education graduates to service and to operate robotics. New requirements will be placed on the skills of personnel and staff. Robotics will help companies produce, manufacture more goods in shorter time. This may lead to growth in economy and creating new jobs in other sectors. I think that successful robotics introduction requires new approaches, new educational training curricula and programs will be required. We'll need to support startups that will help us create ecosystems that will contribute to further growth and robotics introduction. Then we'll have to pay attention to international cooperation that will be an incentive to introduce robotics in our production sites and facilities. And it will be a new step to strengthen our integration process and positions of the Eurasian Economic Union. I invite you to work more on the development of robotics solutions that will help us catch up with the leading economies of the world. Andrei Evgenievich.
Andrei Evgenievich, thank you for your speech. Thank you for finding a way to increase robotization in our countries and how to reduce the digital gap and integrate the AI, the digital twins, and other new technologies. So we continue. As Andrei Evgenievich has said, in Belarus, we have established a state program up till 2040, and robotics will be one of the aspects of this roadmap in order to build intellectual technology. This is an important area which Belarus is planning to elaborate together with its partners in the nearest future as part of the EAEU. In seeing its future, the Republic of Belarus adheres to the goals of sustainable development of the UNO, and it is important for us to apply the international experience to reach sustainable development. In many countries, the goal number 9, the creation of the sustainable infrastructure, is furthered by the UNIDO, the Industrial Development UN Organization. So the floor is to Mr. Farukh Alinchanov, the representative of UNIDO. He will be talking about the modernization and the development of industrial enterprises. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings, and I would like to talk about how we implement the products of the fourth revolution for the development of the EAEU countries and on a global scale. Indeed, UNIDO's contribution to the sustained development is goal number 9, the development of the infrastructure and industry. And our mandate is the implementation of inclusive and sustainable industrial development. So what do we mean by inclusiveness and sustainability? So, of course, environmental sustainability, and also after the COVID crisis, we talk about the sustainability of businesses, businesses' sustainability towards or stability in the face of crises such as COVID and others. So we help companies to stay afloat, to be sustainable, to keep producing products, hire people, pay salaries. What do we mean when we say sustainability in addition to environmental one? So once again, economic and financial sustainability and a capacity to sustain certain shocks. So how do we implement this goal? We help companies to be competitive, so that companies are capable of commercialize their products, to keep producing, and especially with higher products with higher added value, which will ensure not only the continuity of the production, but also profitability of this activity, especially if we are talking about the products with high added value. So digitalization will help us in this goal, so in sustainability, ensuring sustainability. And we invest a lot in marketing of this, the promotion of these products in the regions, because times are not easy now, as we all understand, and we have to prepare companies so that these products are produced at a large scale or at a significant scale, the scale that is demanded by the market. So we implement the projects on robotics, and we use them actively for automation of assembly lines, for materials processing, logistics, transportation, quality control, mass quality control, the packaging, 3D printing, and adaptive technologies, especially using robotics in the hazardous environments, hazardous for people environment. We further this technology, and at the same time we call to companies and member states and business communities not to be overexcited by robotics ideas, exactly because of the ideas that were voiced by the previous speaker, in order to retain the labor market, to reduce the possibility of workplace loss for the people. And therefore it is important for us, digitalization and robotics has to be an instrument for humans to alleviate, to make easier the tasks that are posed to us, to increase the volume of the production volume, etc. We have a huge amount of examples how we implemented. When we implemented, let's say there was a person working on some hazardous in some hazardous industries, this person becomes an operator of a robot. So if the person does not need to retire at the age of 50, they feel well at the end of the day. They basically become an operator of this machine. They don't lose their workplace. What I would like to note once again as part of my speech, you need the beliefs and implements the instruments of the fourth industrial revolution. We have many of them in addition to robotics. So AI, the geographical information systems, virtual reality, mixed reality, the supplemented reality, and distance imaging, blockchain technologies, probing. And the main topic of our forum, of our roundtable, is the application of these instruments for increasing competitiveness of the companies. I would like to give several examples. For instance, digital industrial design has become for us a key to increase, to quadruple export. Let's say the light industry of products from Armenia to the EAEU member states. So the initial export was 10%, and it increased up to 50%, so it's 5 times actually. In Belarus, we also implement a project on the introduction of robotics and other elements of the fourth industrial revolution achievements. I've just met with the delegation from Venezuela. We have just finished a distance probing project in Venezuela for smart agriculture, for digital agriculture. Within 6 months, the level of crops has increased twice within 6 months, and the profitability per hectare. And we are soon, in a couple of months, planning to implement the same project in the Republic of Cuba. And I would like to share some other instruments of the fourth industrial revolution that we are working with, along with robotics. I also call on to you not to forget about the principles of the world and common living. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Limjanov, for this very informative speech. I would like to underline the trend that you have noted, that robotics in the integration is applied along with or in integration with the AI and other digital technologies. If I may, I'd like to ask a question. In the Republic of Belarus, there are 2 projects implemented with the help of UNIDO in Gomel and Mogilov in order to create the competency centers for development of robotics. The question is UNIDO considering any other projects implementation in the Republic of Belarus, maybe in other cities, with other stakeholders, vendors, integrators? Thank you very much, Andrei, for this question. Actually, the project we are implementing now in Mogilov region is the continuation of our initiative of introducing the products of the fourth industrial revolution. We started in the Brest region 4 years ago, and we successfully finished that project. And we were asked by the Belarusian government to expand this project. So we did in Mogilov and Gomel regions. We work with the educational centers and with technoparks, but it is very important for us to implement pilot projects also in the private sector, in the real sector. So actually, the projects have always been implemented. So there was always a tandem of institutional level and micro level. So the real companies. It's important not only to bring in some modern equipment and convince them to use this equipment, which we install in certain public places. And for example, in the Belarus-Russia University in Mogilov, we also work with Technopark in Mogilov, and the equipment that we install is used both for as for educational, then for demonstration, and also for the research purposes. For instance, if we're talking about 3D printing for metal, creating some prototypes, companies who want to upscale their startups, they can use this equipment. So we pilot these projects in the private sector. And I'm very happy to share the fact that one of the projects that we implement has reached $14 million, while the initial investment was much lower. So answering your question, yes, we have. So our initial vision was that these pilot projects will be some kind of a sharing approach, that not only Brest region, not only Mogilov region, but the whole of Belarus and the whole of the EAEU countries will be able to use this equipment. We are going to expand it to Baranovichi, the cities of Baranovichi and Babruisk. Thank you very much, Mr. Alimjanov. Very interesting figures on economics. So we have learned about the international experience of introduction of robotics. Let's talk about the national levels, what's going on the national levels in the EAEU countries. We'll start with the Russian Federation. In Russian Federation, the national project, federal project was adopted up till the 2030. The floor goes to Mr. Kurachkin, Dmitry Nikolaevich, the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce of the Russian Federation. Thank you very much, dear friends, dear colleagues. Let me greet you on the behalf of the Chamber of Commerce of the Russian Federation, which today includes more than 130 chambers throughout the whole federation and encompass the all sectors of the economy. Thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me. It is indeed a strategically important topic, the development of robotics. In my presentation, I would like to underline that robotics is not a question of. So I'd like to underline once again that robotics is not a question of fashion. It's a question of surviving on the global market, especially in the conditions of continuous sanctions and the increasing requirements towards the product quality. Guara Shotana and Andrei Evgenich mentioned today the modest figures on the density of robotics in the industry of our countries. On Monday of 23rd of June, there was a meeting of our entrepreneurs with Mr. Ali Khanov, the Minister of Industry of the Russian Federation, and he noted that it is one of the most important areas of development. 29 robots per 10,000 of population. That's the Russian figures, is quite modest compared to Korean, for instance, figures of more than 900 per 10,000. But what's important that within a couple of previous years, the figures have doubled. The situation is changing, but of course, we're not satisfied with its current level. Today, the industrial robotics in Russia has received its largest development in machine building, metal processing, automotive and electronics sectors. So the industries that define the industrial progress. Its effect is, of course, understandable, increasing the efficiency of production by 15 to 20%, the lowering of expenses down to 20%, increase of the productivity of labor from 40 to 200% of labor productivity, depending on the sector, and the decrease of the poor quality, unacceptable goods, and most importantly, it's the predictability that does not have human factor influencing the course of work. Well, of course, it does not happen by itself. Based on the research that we have gone through lately, the main problems that our industrial companies come across, both in Russia and the EAEU member states, are the following. Of course, the high level of initial investment, because robotics equipment is not just equipment, it has very long span of return on investment, and it takes a very thorough development of the projects, elaboration of the projects. Of course, the second issue is highly qualified labor, very educated personnel, and so the engineers, the operators, and we have to adapt the educational programs for the needs of specific enterprises, and organization of the processes, reorganization, because robots are not kind of building automatically into the previously human-driven processes. And the last but not least, the issues of cybersecurity, a very important topic, because any type of automation is vulnerable if it's not protected in a very reliable manner. And I think today we will have a separate, more detailed speech about it, presentation. What do we do as a system of Chamber of Commerces, one of the largest business unions? What can we do if there are any problems emerging? So here we act not just as an instrument of interaction of the business and the government, but as a platform, a communication platform, or a partner who is capable of accumulating the interests of investors, developers, the state, and the business. So we define the real needs of the sectors of the industries. We define what can be done, and we provide the platform. In terms of international cooperation, first of all, we work in the format of international cooperation with the EAEU member states. And lately, I've been to a center of industrial robotics development in the city of Perm in Russia. We discussed an important investment project. And in the beginning of June, as part of the Foundation of Industry Development, this investment project has been approved. This is our modest contribution, and we implement such projects quite regularly. We regularly inform both entrepreneurs and the state authorities about the work that has been conducted, about the experience that we have accumulated. Here's our annual, so to say, information letters or information bulletins about the real projects conducted each year. On the 29th, we held a very important forum on AI and robotics. It was a hybrid format between Moscow and Vladivostok. It united the developers and academicians of the regions. It was kind of the format of a practical digital exhibition. It will define the future projects, future cooperation, and possible projects. On 27th of May, we conducted an Industrial Congress. Our Minister of Industry and Trade, Mr. Anton Alekhanov, took part in this event. In the discussion, there were the suggestions about how to implement the projects on developing the robotics and automation. And here I would like to note the so to say marketplace of subcontractors and engineering that takes part regularly as part of our Congress, and the regions of the Republic of Belarus take part in it regularly along with the Russian regions. So we've been working together for a while already in this format. In Russia, the subcontracting projects is conducted through regional chambers of commerce.
It's very important that this work has led to the formulation of specific proposals that take into account all technological changes, and it is aimed at having technological sovereignty. Now, moving outside the domestic market, I'd like to emphasize that for a number of years we've been implementing a project to assist industrial cooperation in the countries of the Eurasian Economic Union, together with Bela Shotovna. We've been seeing the active work of our project for cooperation in EAEU. It was set up by 5 of our industrial and commerce chambers. We've seen the start of privileged financing of the projects. We've seen the first results, the first projects. We're hopeful that this work will be actively continued, including companies from Belarus, to strengthen our work within the framework of our board on industrial investment policy. We have a project on artificial intelligence and robotics as a linking element of work between the industrial sector and the governing bodies, and the project and the objective is to increase international cooperation within the framework of the Eurasian Economic Unity, CIS, BRICS, and also Shanghai Organization. And summing up, I'd like to say a few words about the future, what we see for the future. In the future up to 2030, we provide for a growth of 25% per year. It's an ambitious task, an ambitious objective, but we'll be actively working on that. The growth in robotics implementation up to 20% of the companies, and we plan the introduction of artificial intelligence in technological chains. It's not just a dream, it's it can be a reality if we work together. Once again, I'd like to emphasize that robotics is not our future, it's our presence, it's a tool without which we are unable to build a sovereign economy and to achieve economic leadership. So a system of ICCs is going to move in this direction. Dmitry Nikolaevich, thank you for your very productive, fruitful report, remarks, and for the efforts that the Russian ICC is doing exactly in this area of introduction of robotics. Dear colleagues, we continue our overview of robotics on the national level. I'd like the next speakers, to stick to the timing, and I'd like to remind you that we have only 5 minutes for remarks. And now the floor is given to Vladimir Baidulaevich Turikhanov, President of Kazakhstan Association of Automation and Robotics. Dear colleagues, good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the possibility to take part in this roundtable. I've heard my colleagues' remarks. I'd like to say a few words about what's going on in Kazakhstan. We've adopted a number of program documents on the development of robotics. One of the latest instruments is the roadmap for the development of robotics, and one concerning the aerospace technology. It so happened that communications and robotics and aerospace is under the umbrella of one the same industry, and this helps very fast, prompt decision making, and we feel it's helpful, especially when we see the integration of robotics and artificial intelligence. And Gora Shotovna has mentioned that 7 robots per 10,000 in Kazakhstan. That's the figure for 2023. Now the density is 9 robots for 10,000 people. We see positive dynamics. We see more density. Now we have a growth 3 times, a triple increase. Of course, it's because the starting figure was very low, but we have a persistent dynamics, positive dynamics. That's a contribution due to the contribution of the business community and the state authorities. It so happened that we've managed to have develop tense interaction with IT, telecom, communications. Our association is also part of the union of industrialists, so this branch intersectoral synergy helps us move ahead and to develop this area in general. We've heard here speakers mentioning jobs, the labor market. We have examples of companies that have been successful in introducing industrial robots, and at the same time they have not reduced the number of employees. Their number, on the contrary, has grown up. Maybe within the framework of cooperation within our union, we can exchange best practices to show how it is possible, so that we could share this experience with other companies or with governments that face problems, social type problems. We see examples that when companies robotize, so to say, the companies and do not have to make redundant the staff and personnel. With regard to hazardous industries, and production processes, we have examples when companies have to work with radioactive materials. The main objective and problem is to reduce the contact of the personnel with hazardous materials, and other problems are addressed too. So now we see that in cases of successful industrial operation, we can multiply this experience, of course, within Kazakhstan, and perhaps other Eurasian countries might be interested. We have mentioned the platform, robotics platform, Eurasian robotics. We have been responsive to that in Kazakhstan, and on behalf of Kazakhstan, we are co-founders of the platform. If a positive decision is taken within the framework of this platform, we can exchange experience, exchange best practices, we can borrow and multiply successful cases and establish close cooperation. We also set up a center of competence in industrial robotics, and we think we can unite the efforts of science and industry to achieve goals and objectives that we are confronted with, that we have. We have integrators of industrial robots. We also have a small export story, so to say, that we can share with you. And to wrap up, Dmitry Nikolaevich said that robotics introduction and use is something you cannot do without, but I would like to say that robotize yourselves or you will be robotized otherwise. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your remarks, Vadim Bogdanovic. It was interesting for me to hear what efforts are made by the members of the association that are part of your organization. I know that you have a case when the association itself has helped a branch forming, a sector forming company that has helped perhaps it's too early that any concept was adopted. We just showed an initiative in our association. We involved members of our association in that. We decided together, jointly, we decided that Kazakhstan Termizhely, our sector forming company, we developed a project for robotics development with this company, with Transtelecom, and it's similar to Transtelecom in Russia, who implements projects for the railway, Russian railways. So jointly from Transtelecom and Kazakhstan Railway, we've been implementing a project. Hopefully it will be approved, and at least part of it will be laid down into the document for the development of the Kazakhstan railway, and we think that members of our association could take part in its implementation. Once again, thank you. Again, we continue to look at the experience of robotics introduction and implementation in individual countries. Now we are coming to Belarus again about robotized robotic systems in shoemaking companies. We give the floor to Viktor Gurin, Deputy General Director of the joint company Belvest. Good afternoon. Good morning. Belvest company that I represent is the largest shoemaking company that makes 1,500 pairs of shoes per year. It's this company has to deal with fashion, 2,000 articles, 7 sizes, a lot of components. So it's a disaster actually to catch up with the situation. We need to use robotics. We need to automate our production, and there are limitations, however, on implementation of robotics. Shoemaking business is a manufacture business. In essence, a lot of operations is impossible to operate, to automate. A lot of things need to be handled by the hands of a shoemaker, and it's not always possible to automate them. However, there is a number of processes that robotics can be introduced into. I'd like to comment on that. We made an audit and looked at some situations. Like we begin working with leather. We work exclusively with leather. It's an expensive material. Its share is about 40% of our expense. Still, each leather comes from a cow, an individual cow that was perhaps struck with a whip, and to assess, to evaluate the quality, you need a human eye. Then you need to do some cutting. You have to use cutters and cut out components, and you need to think about optimization, how to use to the maximum the available material, and to monitor a number of other objectives like optimizations. The structure of the leather is very important so that it looks identical for two pieces of the fair. So there are fewer and fewer people who would like to operate this rejection press, we call it. So this attracted our attention. So this we decided to use machine sight, so to say, machine eyes, to evaluate, to assess the quality of leather. So we can use virtual cells of rejects, and we rely on neural networks on previously measured leathers. We use the algorithms on virtual cells. We simultaneously set up a database to develop software. In our case, it's a unique operation each time because of my previous remarks. Then we plan shift objectives. We generate programs for each robotized cell. We give assignment for each working place, and we coordinate it with other systems like transportation, security systems. We also addressed the problem of working with very flexible and material and there are specifics in working with leather. So the idea came to our heads in 2019, and a few years later, we started its implementation, and everything except the FANUC Japanese manipulators has been designed by Belarusian developers, Belarusian designers. All components of these systems, like manipulators, systems of vacuum provision, mobile robots to transport leather, software for each type of cells for internal logistics, security system, etc. We have also an intellectual system of operating our production processes. It's a unique tool that we have developed ourselves, and depending on accessibility programs for mapping up the leather for unique pieces of leather, we develop certain roadmaps for the knives, cutting knives to move, and mobile robots already know where to go and where to take these components. There is a full control and monitoring of the stages. Unfortunately, I have not been given the presentation. It would be much more informative to show it to you on a video rather than to comment on that orally. So we have increased our production, and we can now cut about 800 sets. We have 24 manipulators, 22 robots, 6 operators are operating, and there are 3 additional operators are not specially trained high education people. They are graduates of colleges. The investment was about $10 million, and the payment back period is about 9 years. So under the conditions of the shortage of personnel, we think we'll have to introduce robotics. As for disadvantages, it's limited flexibility, a lot of investment to be made, then dependence on third-party suppliers, and we had to do a lot of our original implementations.
As to the maintenance, I assure you that you should not be afraid. We provide maintenance with our own personnel, and of course, the benefits are the increase of the product quality, the stability of quality, and decreasing of the dependence on the human factor of the personnel. Of course, these are not seamless processes. As Dmitry Nikolaevich has mentioned, you have to transform from the previous processes with regards to robots. And thank you very much for your speech. That was great. So I regret that I have had to interrupt you, but we have our schedule. And thank you very much for already answering a series of questions that we mentioned before, the Blitz questions. So I give floor to our next presenter. Cyber villains, cyber attacks. Cyber attacks have become a significant security factor. So cyber security is topical for every economy. I give floor to Mr. Mikhail Alexeyevich Turundayev, the Commercial Director of Industrial Cybersecurity Positive Technologies Group. So thank you very much, dear colleagues. It's a very high level of organization of this forum. I would like to talk about cyber criminals because the world has changed significantly. Currently, we are now in the 6th technological level, and it's very good that we move from electromechanical production to mechanization and digitalization. And today, digitalization is used not only in office applications but also in technological production. However, all of this the world is becoming a very digital place to live, so to say, because the technological level, automation, robotics, and digitalization, the use of digital technologies have been defined previously when this mode was predicted. And 15 years ago, we did not understand the scale of the cyber criminals. 15 years ago, the main targets were banking systems. And after 2022, cyber criminals started attacking technologies, technological sectors, different technological industries. So maybe politics factors in here as well. So the attacks have increased by 100%, by dozens times. Of course, financial sectors are the first ones to be attacked, first targets, but you can see how the oil and gas, industrial, food industries can be stopped by these criminal incidents. And we help investigate them and help protect these enterprises from further attacks. So it's not uniform if we talk about the level of security, level of defense. In fuel and energy complex, only 22% of enterprises have just started taking care of their cybersecurity. 22% are now only looking into it, and the rest are just finding out about it. In the Russian Federation, there is the definition of categories of, and there is a task of import replacement, so replacing by the domestic cyber security systems. The program of replacing the imported cybersecurity systems by the domestic ones is already actively working and helps protect many local industries. So we, as specialists in the area of cybersecurity and cyber sustainability, suggest that every enterprise, every company considers their own programs on defining their vulnerabilities and conducting practical studies in order to prevent going to unacceptable level of lack of security. Because one thing is when cyber villains, cyber criminals attack a company and they steal some vital data. The other thing, if they attack some sensitive industry that may lead to environmental or social crisis or some calamity. So this was very brief, just not to take too much time, but that's what we do. Thank you very much. I would like to note your optimistic mode that we are already in the sixth technological level or mode, because many people think it's number 4, but if you believe it's number 6, so what are the main tactics of the cyber criminals, and how can it be catered by or prevented by robotics? Well, we've talked about artificial intelligence, and of course criminals also use it because neural networks help much faster process information, and of course criminals use it just like regular people, and we do also as a company use AI for providing cybersecurity, to provide protection. So in the context, to give the example of Belarus, we remember about the events that took place 10 years ago. There was a cyber attack and viruses. We all know that more than 1,300, so 1,300 centrifuges were put out of order in Iran 10 years ago, and that was with the help of a virus. And what's important, why I mentioned Belarus before, because this virus was detected by a Belarusian company, by a Belarusian cybersecurity company, and informed the world about it. So thank you very much, dear participants. Let us talk about the plans, the concept of the joint further formats of joint cooperation. I give floor to Mr. Dudorov Evgeny Alexandrovich, the chair of the board of the Consortium of Robotics and the Systems of Intellectual Management. It's called the Robots Corporation. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about the condition of the development of the robotics market in the world. In the world, as we said, there were about 4.5 million industrial robots in the world currently. Maybe by the end of this year, there will be more. And about 600 industrial robots are produced on a regular basis. And we are not talking about robotics that's not industrial. So there are many more robots used in non-industrial sectors. So Russian statistics on robotics is now being kept more thoroughly. The president has set a task to increase this figure that I mentioned initially from 29 robots per 10,000 of population to 145. That means that within the next few years we will have to introduce more than 100,000 robots. And to respond to this challenge, there was a project on the development of industrial robotics and industry support. It was introduced to support research and development, to provide the beneficial options on investment and financing, also on mass public awareness campaigns for awareness raising, and the income from these projects will come to compensate the expenses of the companies that are implementing robotics in their production. So it's a national project, and there are several federal projects. One is on the development of molding industry, on machine building industry, and on personnel improvement. And so the driver is machine building now, and two federal projects go together in tandem. And they enable to synchronize the work. Personnel development is a very important area of evolution as well. And as we said, there are centers of robotics development that are being founded. One was lately founded in Annapolis, one in Perm as a satellite, and there are tenders going for creating 4 more. So depending on which city or town wins, they will develop their own centers on robotics, which will enable to create the cases or develop cases that will be implemented in various sectors of the industry. Taking into account that there is a very big question related to personnel staffing preparation, many universities in the Russian Federation open up the additional educational courses about miners on robotics, robotization of industrial processes. And it's very important that they're tied to people working in certain companies and certain industries. And one significant issue is to overcome this threshold and understanding of people who may see robots as their competitor. So we show that it can be their ally or their instrument. So initially, the deficit of personnel should be catered to. So it has to, this gap has to be covered. So in 2016, there was 1.3 million people deficit of qualified personnel. That was 2.5 times more than 5 years before that, when the measurement was done. So we understand that we have to go through robotics introduction, and we understand that the era of cheap labor force is over. An average salary last year was about $1,000, 88,000 Russian rubles, and the starting salary of just graduates, recent graduates in 2024 rose twice. So these are the figures that will not enable us to go back in development. We'll have to move forward. What are the limitations that we will have to overcome? First limitation is, as I said, is this mentality, so that this mental threshold. Then the lack of our own components and our own qualified personnel. We will have to fill in these gaps. As to the interstate program and the concept as such, Zora Shotovna mentioned it today already, and we definitely need it today. The creation of the Eurasian technological programs for robotics will enable us to unite the stakeholders of the markets of the member state countries and establish the manufacturing of robots and the components for robots based on the technological platforms that we have in our countries. As a consortium, we completely support the creation of this program, and we see that this program needs to envisage the following conceptual approaches. First, we need to analyze what are the manufacturers of robots in the EAEU countries and the components manufacturers, what are the capacities, how we can interact. We start interacting with them as part of the Robotics Atlas. Then we need to organize the measures of interstate support of the manufacturers and the users of robotics, and we need to do it through very specific, concrete and applied projects and through cooperation of our countries. Then popularization of robotics, awareness raising with population, maybe with the help of the magazines that we are publishing, joint participation in various exhibitions and fairs. Then the sale of robotic complexes and components through a common marketplace, and we've been discussing this question as well. And the development of the robotics centers, not only in the Russian Federation, but also in the EAEU countries, is very topical. We have many more suggestions. We will work on them. We will elaborate them. Thank you very much. Evgeny Alexandrovich, thank you very much for this very concise and very informative report. I'd like to ask you a question as how do you see the program of industrial robotics? Who of the stakeholders, of the actors could take part in this program as part of the EAEU economic space? What enterprises, what organizations, what companies, state, private, scientific organizations, manufacturers of what? Yes, what you've listed, I think all of these organizations, types of organizations should participate. Definitely there have to be educational and training centers founded, because we need to train personnel. We cannot avoid that. Of course, the consumers of robotics, what Viktor Leonidovich told us about the project that was implemented, it's a very interesting project. And based on that project, we can analyze and show how the technological model can be changed with the help of robotics. And of course, companies have to be changed, those companies that develop technologies. Because robotics is a thing that is intersectoral, and the solutions that we use in robotics, the engineering, things like sensors, controllers, microelectronics, are usually used in other industrial sectors, a whole series of them. And so all of these companies have to participate. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. The first part of our roundtable is finished. Let me please thank all of the speakers on behalf of all of our participants, and thank them for their expert opinions. And now we go over to the most interactive but still very informative part of the discussion, together with the experts that represent different sectors where robotics is already applied. Here is the schedule. There are 4 questions prepared for. So these are the questions, and the answers would be given randomly by whichever expert would like to answer. So, dear colleagues, please introduce yourself before you give an answer, and say which organization you represent. And if the speakers want to take part in the discussion, you're very welcome. And we will listen to 2-3 answers from the experts for each of the questions. So let me introduce the experts of the discussion panel. And the first one is Alireza Jafari, the General Director of the Society of the Persian Trade House, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Garanin Viktor Nikolaevich, the Scientific Secretary of ZAO, of the Closed Joint Stock Company, technological company in the Republic of Belarus, Deputy Director on Marketing of Nikon Company of Republic of Belarus, Mayorov Sergei, the representative of the Tatarstan Republic Technological Company, ZAO Belgi, Valery Vasilievich Taberka, representing Savushkin Product Company from Belarus, RoboPro, Russian Federation representative.
I'd like we see on the screens 2 ratings. First, competitiveness of the products of the countries, top 10 in density of robotics in the industry. I'd like to 7 out of the list are part of both lists, and 2 more countries. So 9 out of 10 of the indexes are leaders in the density of robotics. That we see correlation between the first and the second. What are the trends that are observed in the Eurasian Economic Union? Does robotics allow you at your companies increase the competitiveness of your industries, and whether such companies are the leaders in their segment of the industry? Alireza Jafari, you have the word.
در طول این میزگرد آنچه برای من بسیار روشن شد این بود که استفاده از فناوری‌های نوین
What was interesting for me was the innovation solutions, which is not only an element of economic growth, but can turn into a tool, into an instrument of general interaction of countries of Eurasian Economic Unit, because all these countries have high potential of natural resources, so they can become one of the poles, one of the centers of innovation, a pole for intellect and robotization of robotics introduction with application of the highest standards. And simultaneously, we must pay attention without legal preparations or because of inequalities existing, technological inequalities between members of the EAEU, we can have negative phenomenon. So the EAEU market needs cooperation of internal infrastructures, and this requires a unified look at our future. Whatever concerns automation, digitalization, they must serve the purpose of art, so to say, like in shoemaking that we have heard about. Perhaps robots are efficient. However, the art applied in and used in shoemaking, it requires human intervention. So robots cannot replace a human, as our poet Hafez said. Everything must be put to the service of the consumer, to the service of the people. I invite other experts to take part in the discussion. Savushkin Product, I'm Director for Automation, Taperka Vladimir Vasilievich. My answer is positive because the first factor is reduction in expenses. The quality is also raised, improved, and we have a better introduction, of new products into the market. So we have our density of robotics is 100 robots per 10,000 employees. I think my answer is clear. Colleagues, with your permission, Director, Belgian company, a joint Belarusian Chinese car-making company. Thank you for the remarks by the speakers. It's a very topical subject. I'd like to say that in the manufacture of cars, and we deal here with robotics as a factor of growth. I would say it's a condition for competitiveness. There's no other way apart from robotics to create a system of quality control. It's impossible to do it without robotics. And the more so, it holds true for acceptable parameters of prime cost and high quality. So from factor, I've moved to the word condition. So basically, we are concerned that in the countries of Eurasian Economic Union, we are totally lacking competence. Our partner, our partner, Geely company, they have foreign robotics components are also imported. Some things in terms of software are done by ourselves. So without an integrated program of introduction of robotics systems and complex with and the objective of technological independence, so to say, sovereignty. It's an acute problem, and its solution will yield inevitable results. My question is whether you work on increasing the density of robotics, industrial robotics. If we are to talk about the density, we started with 30 robots. Now we are finishing modernization, then we'll end up with 100 robots. As for laser soldering or welding, you cannot do this without robotics, because you cannot achieve the required quality and integrated cycles. They are part of automated system of quality control. Of course, we are introducing robotics, and the robotics density is increasing. Do we have any speakers to Republic of Tatarstan? Mayorov Sergei Vasilievich from Tatarstan, industrial cluster. Traditionally, we have a committee that deals with digitalization. 74 participants, Belarus, Kazakhstan, China are part of the work of that committee, and we have 37 robots per 10,000. Of course, if our car-making companies have a higher density, but due to robotics implementation, we have increases in shipments, in production. We have now figures that indicate that robotics is contributing to that. We'd like to make a suggestion. We've started discussions with Vitaly Mikhailovich, and Goara Shotovna has justly said that joint efforts by business, science, and government will yield results, proper results. So we have a federal center of competences. We'd like to suggest our committee as a candidate to be part of our joint efforts. Thank you. Sergei Vasilievich, now we're moving to question number 2. According to of the analytical ABI research, 53% of world manufacturers are at the early stage of introduction of robotic systems. And a survey that was done in the 4th quarter of the 24 and 1st quarter of 25 in the United States, Germany, and Malaysia shows that introduction of industrial robotics is a key factor for improvement of quality. My question is whether the introduction of robotics will become a priority for domestic industries to improve the quality of production, or do we pursue other goals? Maybe I will intervene. I think yes, it will. If we talk about dairy industry, the concept is from field to the counter, sales counter. So we think that starting with agriculture, robotics introduction and implementation, of course, will help us with reducing the time from field to retail, and it will improve the storage, it will improve the logistics. Reducing the human factor is important. Digitalization, automation, and robotics will help us prevent the negative effects of the human factor. As for the robot, it is a standardized machine. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't eat. It ensures a very stable quality. I'd like to make an addition. If we are to respond to this question, to its formulation, we need to talk about a system using robotics systems. I think the priority is exactly this, because if it's an integrated system, I can cite you an example of welding production. We have a range of 27 robots that have to be controlled, and the chain is closed at continuous and also selective control, and it is all automated. Then in this case we can provide the proper quality. So it's not only about the number of robots, it's an integrated system that is required. Thank you for your comments. And since we're limited in time, we have a blitz round of questions and answers. The third question: in the course of survey of more than 3,000 companies, ABB Robotics indicate that a lot of them indicated fears of using robotics. 29% said that they would revise their decision if training was accessible. So my question is, how did you go about introducing and taking decisions about introducing robotics? What stages were passed when you introduced robots, and how did you go about maintenance and servicing of robots, and what is the stage at which your company is about in terms of robotics introduction? The main obstacle is that companies do not have specialists in robotics. Even when you prepare an assignment or terms of reference, we face this problem. In federal centers, in Tatarstan, we have first signed a decree by about a roadmap that has to be introduced has to be given to head of a company, which states that you only introduce robotics in places and in those cases where there is an obvious benefit through it. Thank you. With your permission, a few words. I agree with Sergei Vasilievich that, of course, technological audit is very important. What you've just said, I would just, by way of addition, based on the results of an audit, head of the company or the owner ends up with data or figures that it's not just something abstract. It's not just wishful thinking. The owner or the head of the company has data on what's the payback period, what's the benefits and profits. But the emphasis was that the absence of competence is a substantial barrier on the way of introduction, robotics introduction. Thank you. Forgive me, it's important because there is shortage of information about what kind of robots are available. There is an information vacuum. I attended an electronic exhibition. They show you an electronic robot that allows you to do electronic soldering. It's only by attending this exhibition that I came to know that they do exist. Then So what lines can be, set up by combining different types of robots? So to make a proper technical assignment or terms of reference is very difficult. We need to provide this information to heads of companies. We need to. So we have information vacuum. You do it on your own. You go and try to find what's available. So it's not sufficient. Yes, the shortage of information about what is available due to existing robotic systems. Yeah, I think that the work on the atlas that I mentioned, with regard to competencies, we have good examples and good practices in the Russian Federation. There is the Ministry of Economic Development, and there is a federal competence center which addresses problems of the improvement of the productivity of labor when a company is visited by experts and they see into what's going on there. So this center is now also dealing with the issues of robotics introduction. So here we are dealing with a good example of how it is all combined when an audit is made and what processes are available, what processes can be updated with the introduction of robotics. And thank you for your remarks. I would like also to. There are best practices in the world. There are agencies where best vendors and integrators gather, and the agency's role is to convey exactly this combined information, integrated information to the knowledge of heads of companies. Still, we are short of time, and question number 4 is offered for your consideration. How do you appreciate the prospects of cooperation of our union and partners in the development and production of component bases for industrial robotics and introduction of increasing the sovereignty and reduction in imports dependence? We are exactly the company that we make components and also we manufacture robots, and we work in close cooperation with our Russian manufacturers. And in terms of certification, we have a trace of register of products. We work with certificates from Belarusian Association to operate in Russia if we have closer interaction. I think that the certification procedure is the main obstacle. We have to deal with manufacturers of components that are intimidated by the word certification, and I think perhaps we have questions to ask of ICCs to reduce, to streamline the procedures, to simplify the procedures, because sometimes we have to look for manufacturers that can certify their produce rather than have good quality products.
So, brief comments from the colleagues. I represent a company that is involved in automation. Our colleague just shared about the positive experience, and we have some negative experience. We are involved in the components for robots, and some of our products that we produce are not seen by the Russian state as domestic ones. So the Belarusian companies can use it as a whole machine, and they are acknowledged, and they're not acknowledged by the Russian legislation as components, domestic components. This is a serious barrier, isn't it? Yes, indeed. So, dear colleagues, if we don't resolve this issue radically, despite the fact that Yevgeny said it in such a merry way that we have subsidies, we have support, state support. Currently, there is a certain kind of disrupted approach that robotics is very well supported in implementation and introduction of robotics. The state subsidies, Perm and us in Kazan definitely will not be able to produce 900,000 robots this year. So this money will be just, pending. So it's very good that 20% of robots, regardless of their purpose, is being subsidized. But in addition to subsidizing, there has to be a state planning. Each country has to have a plan where each company would have at least 2 suppliers, and then in our market we will be able not to only manufacture and cover domestic needs, but we will be able to export robots. Well, unfortunately, if we start this discussion, we will just delve into more and more time. So we are wrapping up now. The floor is to Gar Ashotovna. So, dear colleagues, the representatives of state authorities and business, this lively discussion shows a very big interest in and importance of this topic. I think we had a very good discussion, very practical conversation with experts from the industry. There were many suggestions voiced. There were some notes, and we will go back to Moscow, the headquarters of the EAEU, and we will work very thoroughly. Soon we will have the decision made on the creation of the unified plan. And as soon as we are ready, we will voice it and we will move forward working jointly with you. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. I would like to hand the gold of Tatarstan to Gar Ashotovna because, you're presenting gold to me in public, so I will have to give explanations. Let me explain that it's just chocolates, not real gold. Okay, thank you very much, dear colleagues. We will, if you have any further questions, please pass them to the organizers. We will process the questions and then we will present them for everybody's discussion. Andrei Evgenievich, will you say a couple of words? Did you get some gold sweet? Yeah, well, thank you very much, everyone, for this very productive roundtable. We've heard about the challenges voiced and we heard about the solutions. So I wish us all a very fruitful rest of the day and a very good mood. Thank you very much. Dear participants, this is the end of our, so we're wrapping up. And thank you very much to our moderator.